Right, there we are live on YouTube. And good morning, everybody. It's Thankful Thursday. Yay. So I'm turning this mic over to Dove or Lori or whomever is here to start things off.
Well, I'll start as usual when I remember to come. I set my alarm last night like I can't forget again. It's like, oh my God, tomorrow morning's Thursday. And I was so caught up with I'm packing and washing all the sheets and stuff and that to leave here, leave Mexico. But good morning. Good morning, Karen and Bob and Lynn and Dove and Mickey and Deb and Sharon's not here yet. Is Sharon going to be here today? Do you know? Does anyone know?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything.
Huh, okay. Well, she'll probably sign on. Maybe she's having trouble. Our internet was out yesterday. Anyway, I
I'll
think,
text her, Laura.
oh, okay, thanks, Karen. So today is God is in everything I see. And this lesson is an interesting one because if you don't pair it with lesson 30, you will think that God is in form. And the Course tells us that God is not in form. Why? Because form is the illusion, and God can't be in an illusion. There's Sharon. She just came on. Um, so hi, Sharon. So I remember being on a panel discussion one time, and hi, Sharon. Someone on the panel who was he was not a either he was a very new Course in Miracles student or he was a student of other metaphysical paths. And somebody brought up lesson 29, God is in everything I see. And he said, I knew it. I knew it. I knew God was in everything. Well, he was right. God is in everything, but God is mind and God is thought and God is ideas because form dies and God is eternal and nothing that is God can die. So unless you pair it with lesson 30, which says, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind, this lesson can be seen as pantheism. And but again, pantheism, God is everything, God is all there is. It's tricky like that. And I know for me, getting to the place of God is thought only, God is awareness only, God is mind only has been very frightening. I don't like it. The part of me that wants to hang on to the forms that I like does not like that. And I was confronted with that again just this past week. And you would think that when the form has been so-called dead for 3 years, I would have let go of it by now, but I haven't. And that's how strong the pull of the ego and the thought system of death in this world is. So, being down here in Mexico, it was 3 years ago that I was here with Rod after he had his strokes. So, being down here is a constant reminder of him. And I'm staying at the place where he lived, the community where he lived. And so it was like all this tension because there's this part of me that's like special relationship, you don't want to grieve a special relationship, it's let that go, let that go. And then a couple days ago, after being here for 3.5 weeks, I met with one of his best friends that was here, and he actually showed me a picture he had taken when he was on a walk with Rod, a beautiful sunset over a sunrise over the lake and the mountains and everything. And I asked him, I said, why do you think that Rod did what he did? Why did he have to go through 7 months? Or, the first month he could talk and speak, but after that he couldn't move or speak or anything. For 6 months he was that way until he transitioned. I said, why do you think Rod did that? And I was all uh, with these meanings and reasons why Rod did that because he was a macho guy that couldn't let go and all that stuff. Well, my friend, Dan is his name, being a very good course student, said, it's not about Rod, it's about you. And of course, I have been in and out with this for 3 years. And he goes, it was for you. And he goes, everything's for our good. And I'm going, and I'm sitting there writing this down because I had said Rod was such a fighter. He wouldn't let go. He just wouldn't let go. And he goes, where are you holding on? Where are you fighting? Where are you resisting? Yeah, Karen, that's what I'm like. Oh God. So I wrote it all down while we were having coffee. I said, I've got to write this down because my ego's going to defend against this. And I want to get back to, I want to meditate on it. So I the so I came home and I meditated and I was thinking of the line in the manual for teachers, which I had to look up to find out where it was, but it's in the development of trust at the beginning paragraphs where it says it takes great learning to recognize that everything is for your good. And of course, we just did lesson 25, which says, what is its purpose? It's for your good. Well, it's really, really hard for the ego to see how your beloved lying there, unable to move, unable to talk for 6 months is good. That was a little tough for me. And good morning, Gloria. And so um, I said, okay, Holy Spirit, I need to let this go. I mean, for God's sake, it's been 3 years and I've been in and out of truth on this. And then I get it. And I know it's all thought. And I know it's all that Rod was a symbol in my mind. I know it's all love. And then I lose it. And then I get it. And then I lose it. So I'm meditating on this and the idea that it's all for your good, no matter how it appears. And my initial reaction was this big phew, but I didn't say just F. Phew. I was just so mad and then started crying and broke and had to um, get to the place where it's like, wow, you know, we do this to ourselves. Salvation might be seen, as the undoing of all concepts, like the concepts of death and everything. But the secret of salvation is you are doing this unto yourself. And I had to get to the place, which I had been at this place before and lost it, but been at this place and the ego defended against it of I made this up. There's no dream character Lori, there's no dream character Rod, there's no dream character of ACIM Gather. Um, it's all the images that either reflect love or fear. They reflect truth or illusion. And the body reflects illusion, and the body will die. And to look at the horrendous ugliness of the ego thought system that would have my beloved die in such a heinous way. I mean, just awful, terrible. And forgiving that, just saying, you know what? All appearances are equal, right? They're all the same. And how is it for your good? It's not because, I also was led to the immediacy of salvation, that section in the text, chapter 26, that says, um, Sharon, I think you need to mute because I think there's some background noise there. Yeah, that did it. Thanks. So the immediacy of salvation says, why should you sigh and just say, well, I'll figure it out someday, why this happened the way it did, and why should good come in evil's form? Because the way I look at it, having a body there that cannot move or speak, that's evil. If you want to say there's evil. And it was like, that's right. A lot of times, religious thought systems or metaphysical thought systems will say, well, there's some good in it. You developed patience, or you developed acceptance, or you developed letting go, or, whatever. You developed an awareness that it's all a dream or whatever. That's not the good that, in my opinion, that's not the good that the Course is talking about. The good is you wake up. You wake up and you see that you made this dream. And you can change the dream because, in the sense of waking up from the dream, you can wake up from the dream that you made, the dream of death that you made, you can wake up. And so that came on me so strongly, like, you know what? I can't do my old dance. I've been doing it since my dad died in 2012. So it's been 14 years now that I'll touch it, then I go back. I'll touch it, then I'll go back. It's like, no, I want the symbol. I want the form. I want the person. I want the separate, special relationship, right? I want the idol because Rod was my hero and my dad was my hero. And how could my heroes die such ugly, horrible deaths? This has got to change. There's something wrong with this. Well, what's wrong with it is that I made it up and I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to keep believing in my dreams of death and letting go into truth that all is love and all is one because all is thought and all is mind and all is ideas. I didn't want that. I wanted form. And it's very interesting because a long time ago, when I was doing YouTube videos, I did a bunch, I think I did 5 of them on formlessness because I was like, no, it's God's not in form. God's not in form. Who was I fighting? I was fighting myself, the part of me that wanted to believe that God was in form and that God, makes form. But how could God make form when form has to die by its very nature? So with that, with Sharon, I don't know if you were on at the very beginning, I was segueing from lesson 29, God is in everything I see, saying it has to be paired with lesson 30. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And lesson 30 says, surely God is not in what you see as you see it. God is in it because God is mind and God is everywhere and God is everything. And everything we see is an idea, a symbol, and it's all one big dream. So with that, I'm just turning that over to you, Sharon.
Oh, thanks, Lori. I was listening in Pal Talk. So I was listening, but I was making some stuff in the kitchen. Anyway, I'm sad for you that you're leaving Mexico because the weather here is a little cold. And I have grown, I'm like Linus, like I have a blanket, an electric blanket. Every place I go, I bring my blanket and I plug it in. And the most important thing that I can think of today is the special relationship that's the last to go is the one I have with this body, right? Because everything is a special relationship here. I mean, everything's relationship. We're also interconnected. I want to say that lesson 30 is like one of my very favorite lessons. And when I look at is God is everything is in everything I see, and because God is in my mind, it's all light here. All form is light. The light is the form is what attracts the camera from the ego, but the higher mind is all light. And when vision comes in, you can no longer see separation. You just see vision, which is really what this whole lesson is pertaining to. We would not be in this dream if it weren't for God. God is a power that we have, but it's not God the creator. It's the Holy Spirit, right? Because it's just, it's not, we're still illusory. As long as we're staying in this realm and we go to, what they would call awakening, there's other stages of awakening where, I was listening to Nisargadatta Maharaj last night. Oh my God, I found something so fabulous. And I was listening to this voice that sounded like it could have been him. And it was all about the fact that none of this, we all know this anyway, I'm singing to the choir, but none of this would be here without the power of God and love. Love is what's keeping this universe intact. It doesn't appear that way, but it is doing that. And what Ken has said, I haven't looked at his thing yet, but he says here, when Jesus says God is in everything I see, he means that God is in everything I think. Because seeing and thinking are the same. Perception comes from thought and remains one with them. The basis for vision then is seeing the purpose of God. I see forgiveness in everything I see because I have fired the ego as my teacher. So we look past the form, but the form is blinding when we believe that the camera's telling the truth because the vision that's come in is so illuminated and everything touches that. And it's all love and forgiveness. Now, when Lori was talking about Rod, it's hard to find what is it good for. But I think in the long run, everything that's happening for us in this dream is for us. Because when I look at, what's going on in our world, Well, the only thing I can come to is that it's a higher call to make our consciousness that all of us are just moving into the higher consciousness. Now, is that true for everyone? No, but it is definitely true for us, the ones that are in this group. It's definitely true for anyone studying anything that has to do with non-duality. And what I see now first that comes from vision is light. And the light is very, very bright, and the basis for vision then is seeing the purpose of God. I see forgiveness in everything I see because I fired the ego. Resign now as your own teacher. There's no way that we can stay with the same teacher, but you don't even have to ask the Holy Spirit. When the light comes in, you realize that is the Holy Spirit, and that's truly what we are. What Nisargadatta was saying in this teaching last night, basically was that even when we become the observer, that's not the end of this. This is an ongoing process. We want to get, because at the very end, it's only awareness. It's only presence here. There's nothing else. And, whenever an upset happens now, I look at it not as a mistake, but as a gift. Because every time I really, no, I'm not thrilled with what's going on as a person out in this world, but I know there's a higher cause for it. And that would be to move into, Greg Braden has said, we are moving into a different paradigm. And that's what this is about. So I feel as though, I think one of the things that you can see is God in a tree. Well, how could a tree be there without God? How could a tree even show up without God? But it's really a hallucination. We're just hallucinating, because really it's all just this beautiful light. And this is where the miracle is. And Nisargadatta has said that everything's a miracle here. It's either a miracle or it's not. Just you as a being is a miracle. I would say that every one of us, and I want to say hello to everyone, that would be Lynn, and that would be Lori, and Dove, and Robert, and Karen, and Mickey, and Deb, and Glorian. That would be all of you are just light. We're light beings. And this whole thing, and this whole ridiculous dream, which it is ridiculous at this point. I mean, there's it's the time of insanity in the world right now. And I think it's really good for us to look at it as the gift from Holy Spirit, that yes, it's not good when I hear people being tortured or hurt or whatever. None of that makes the personal self feel good. But when we go to the higher level and realize, well, where is this for us? Because it's light. Like Rod is in the light completely now. That's what he is. He's a light being. And, we always project what our brothers are going through, but we can't really know if they're suffering as much as we're suffering with the story that our mind's telling us. So we have to get rid of that, because sacrifice isn't what this process is about. There's no sacrifice in God. The Course in Miracles is a very gentle process. And I was away from it for 5 years. And I guess I was supposed to be, because everything that's happened to me has happened for me. And it's moving me in the direction of the oneness. I don't want to say, oh, I didn't get touched by what happened to that guy, because I did. I was very, very, very challenged by that man that was a nurse. But I realized that he's in the light now. He's free. And what is he missing here? You can't miss anything, because it's Groundhog Day every single day. I have mapped out my day where I look in and I say to myself, my God, what is going on except the same thing as yesterday? Sitting in chair with a hot blanket and a hot electric blanket. And it's kind of fun to realize that we're not really there. There's nothing here but the light. So if God is in everything I see, then that's what we are. We're the light. So with that, I'm going to give this to Dove. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Unmute. Okay. I'm going to give it to Dove. Okay. What does Dove got to say? I came across this thing just a few minutes ago, and I wanted to kind of share it. Maybe I can put it up here. Hold on one second. And then if you can't read it, I'll just read it. It's from Terence McKenna. I think some of you know that name. And this is what he says. He says, we are told no, we're unimportant, peripheral, get a degree, get a job, get a this, get a that. And then when you get all that, you're a player. Hey, I hit the big time. I'm a player. You don't want to even play in that game. You realize that that's not the game you came here to play. You want to reclaim your mind and get it out of the hands of the cultural engineers who want to turn you into a half-baked moron, consuming all this trash that's being manufactured out of the bones of a dying world. You can find that on azquotes.com. So this world is really a make-believe world. You know, we come here to find something that doesn't even really exist, but we are told that it does. We just go out there and find it. You know, you got what it takes. So then along comes Jesus and A Course in Miracles. And I think the most important thing in the Course in Miracles, at least for me, it doesn't have to be for anyone else, is that quote, do you want to be right or happy? Choose one. You can't have both. Yeah, and that comes from text chapter, I just put it up on the board, text chapter 29, section 7. And it says, the need to be right gives birth to many useless conflicts. Yeah, at first they tell you that you're not good enough, so you have to get a degree, get a job, and then you realize you really don't want that stuff. I've gone through a few jobs in my early life. I worked for IBM when I was 21, and everyone thought that was great. And I realized I don't want to sit at a computer all day. Notice I'm still sitting at a computer all day. And in those days, computers were the greatest thing that ever came down the pike. And I said, nah, this is not for me. I don't want to spend the rest of my life coding and this and that. And then I went to my favorite place, Wall Street, got a job there. And then I realized, I don't want to sit there all day. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm sitting here all day watching. But this is something above all that. You know, it's like when he says, above all else, you know, see things differently. And when he says, you can rise above this battleground and look down and smile and laugh. And that's where do you prefer to be right or happy comes in. The need to be right gives birth to many useless conflicts. Yeah, they're useless, but you do them anyway. You know, it's kind of like, I kind of heard you say, Laurie, that, you know, when you looked at Rod and he was laying there in the bed and it took a lot to recognize that this is for the good. Well, actually, it is for the good because we don't really know what anything is for. That's my favorite lesson, lesson 25. I don't know what anything is for, but everything is happening for you. Here I am at 85. The body certainly is not working correctly. I mean, I go to a gather meeting and my eyes are closing and I fall asleep and I wake up. The meeting is over. Wow. So obviously, there is either I'm here to remember the truth of what I am, or I'm just doing the same old thing over and over again. Goes on to say here, what do I gain in being right? What do I lose in being wrong? With true perception, the answer to both is absolutely nothing. What do I get from being right? Nothing. What do I get from being wrong? Zero, nothing. There's a space within that neither seeks nor avoids acknowledgement of any kind. Wow. That kind of reminds me of Rafi and his, do you want approval? Yeah. That neither seeks nor avoids acknowledgement of any kind. What the hell do you need acknowledgement for? What do you need approval for? Well, I'm not there yet. I'm just not there yet. Isn't that what Dove says about people who still come from their ego? Yeah, that's right. You still come from your ego. Yeah, so the ego dominates. But the only thing about this is to be happy about you, that you are an ego. Yeah, that's right. I am an ego. Can you imagine that? You could not be here if you weren't an ego. You need a body. But that's exactly what came up for me when you mentioned that, Lori, Rod is not his body. He may be lying there in bed and you see him physically as a body, but we're not bodies. And, in the next program that Karen and I are doing starting at 10:30, any one of these lessons is the entire course, really? Yeah. Starts out with, I'm not a body. Now, if you can hang in with that, you can be happy, baby. You can really be happy. I'm not a body. But in this world, it's very difficult to recognize that you're not a body. But that's what we do here, day in, day out, year in, year out. So there's an ever-present spark of light that needs nothing to shine the love I am. It's only within the space that peace is found and maintained. That means it's always now. That's how you maintain something. It's always now. There is no time. You go into time, you're out of your mind. Well, ooh, I'm going to write that down. If you go into time, you're out of your mind. Love you all.
Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Dove. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Sharon. First of all, I want to thank Lori for sharing what you shared, and what came to me when you said, what you learned was, your awakening. That's what the good is. What good is coming from this? I am awakening, and the resurrection is awakening from the dream, this dream of separation, this dream of death, that there could really be death. And he tells us in the course, so we go from the crucifixion to the resurrection. We go from the darkness. I wrote all these notes down when you were talking, from darkness to light, from perception to knowledge, from littleness to magnitude, from conflict to peace. As Dove was saying, from being right to being happy, so being right, this is such a good reminder, because Ken Wapnick always talks about that being wrong is the best place to be. It's better to be wrong, because we don't know, as Dove said, what anything is for. And he tells you, so where Dove read from was chapter 29. In chapter 30, in Rules for Decision, he says that having decided that you do not like the way you feel, what could be easier than to continue with? And so I hope I have been wrong. So I hope I have been wrong, because when I am wrong, I'm leaving space for the Holy Spirit and I'm allowing the Holy Spirit to lead the way. If I think I'm right and I think I know, I am not leaving space for the Holy Spirit to see that God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind. And I used to get confused about this lesson a lot too, as Lori was alluding to. But then when I heard Ken Wapnick, heard him talk about it and hear him read about it, he says that it can be confusing because he's actually not referring to God. He's talking about the purpose of God. The purpose of God is in everything I see, and that is forgiveness. So to forgive everything I see, be grateful for every living thing, because every living thing is an opportunity for forgiveness. So he says that the purpose of forgiveness is in everything I see. This is so because purpose is in the mind, which will be explained as we proceed. So the purpose is either for the crucifixion or the resurrection. I'm either going to, as Dove and I are doing next, it's going to be, it is but myself I crucify. That is the lesson that we're on today. So I'm either crucifying myself, I'm either punishing myself, blaming myself, making myself wrong, making myself a victim, or allowing Holy Spirit to show me another way. And so he says that Jesus will say God, when technically speaking, he's referring to the Holy Spirit. An explicit example to cite it again is found in lesson 193. All things are lessons God would have me learn, where in the lesson itself, Jesus clearly states that God does not teach, for that is the Holy Spirit's role. In this lesson, too, in saying the purpose of God is in everything I see, Jesus is really speaking of the Holy Spirit's teaching purpose. So teaching us to learn to see God in everything I see, for me, is also seeing that everyone is the same, that we are all connected, that there is no separation. When I'm seeing God in everything, I'm seeing that every living thing is a part of the whole. There is nothing different. And it's not always easy. Like lately there's the miracle principle number one. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. Every problem is the same. It's one problem, one answer. And I still can have a tendency to think some problems are bigger than another. And until I go back and recognize I am wrong, would I rather be right or happy? I am wrong. Holy Spirit, show me how to see this differently. And the Holy Spirit shows me that there is only one problem. And the one problem is I didn't put God first. I didn't put love first. And I thought I knew. What the problem was, which wasn't the real problem. So, yeah, I really love this. And I like what Dove also said, that, you need a body while you're here, because the body is our classroom here to learn the lessons that we came to learn. So I just love this lesson, and I'm so grateful to be here, and thanks.
Thanks, Karen. Wow. As I just wrote that down in my notes because I have to meditate on it. I love how you said that. The purpose of God is in everything I see. So if in lesson 29, I could put the purpose of right in front of God is in everything I see. That's great. And then, Dove, what you were saying, Rod's not a body, and I'm like, holy crap. Holy crap. I have spent 3 years focusing on how awful the thing that happened to his body was. I've spent 3 years doing that. What the hell? I'm a course student. I should know better. But that's ego. It's like, oh my God. It's almost like when you said that, Dove, Rod's not that body lying there. And of course, I've said that to myself and keep coming back to, seeing that body and like going, oh, well, I'm glad I'm not this ego because this is very embarrassing because it's like, here I talk about this stuff all the time and I'm totally missing it right in front of my face, or I'm believing what I'm seeing right in front of my face. I have spent all this time, wasted time in the ego, but I am so like what you were just saying, Karen, I am so happy that I was wrong. I was so wrong to even put any meaning on what the body went through. There's no meaning on what the body went through. And I've been thinking a lot about lesson 3 lately. I just love in the first part of the year when we go over all the beginning lessons. And I love the review of lesson 3, which is lesson 51. And it says, I do not understand anything I see because it is not understandable. And it doesn't make any sense. So here I'm asking Rod's friend, well, why do you think Rod went through that? Well, that's an ego question. That makes no sense at all. That's not even a real question, right? Because it has nothing to do with what the body went through. Oh my God. And so I wrote this down again because I'm going to meditate on these 2 things, because if I don't, the ego's going to jump right back into moaning and complaining about what seemed to happen in form. Wow. I'm so grateful for this venue. And I'm grateful too, Sharon, that you said Rod's a light being. We're all light beings. That we have never been born and we have never died. And of course, I can mouth those words, but do I really believe them deep down? Obviously not, when I'm sitting there holding on to this attachment of something horrible that seemed to happen in form. So this is great. One of my Course in Miracles meeting friends in Michigan said, she goes, well, I wonder what you're going to experience down in Mexico this time. You always come back with something great, and it's like, wow, coming back, it's like I've finally let go of my grievance around Rod, or I finally let go of the special relationship around that and stopped hanging on to the belief in death. Because I thought of that when I first came down here. I want to let go of the belief in death, and it just seems like intellectually I know it, but emotionally I can't let go of it. Oh, Mickey, you're writing in there. Why is one of the most useless questions we can ask? What is it for is one of the most useful. And isn't that a beautiful picture of Ken and Judy? Yeah. And they're not their bodies. They're these light beings. You can see that light in there. So I'm going to let the mic go back over to Sharon on this. Thank you, everyone, for helping heal my mind.
It's funny, Lori, I feel like you are doing exactly what we're all doing. I mean, we're back and forth, and this was very, what happened with Rod was devastating because of the story that, your mind was holding, but it was also about love, letting him know, because we do want our projections that we are special to do well. But you're always so clear that I think when you do roll back into that, that's just the scraps of fear that are still in your mind. And that's what I have. I still have scraps of fear that, I don't like right away when something bad happens, say, oh, wait, this is just the light. No, there's a reaction. Usually there's something that comes up, but there's a knowing in all of us that we realize at this point that whatever we've learned in the last, 10, 20, 30, 40 years studying A Course in Miracles, is that this is certainly a process. And we will roll back into form at different times. And if we do, we do. You don't have to, intentionally forgive it. You just look and judge not. That's all. Because it doesn't matter, because you're never the ego. You can't be thought. You can't be thought, because thought is ephemeral, and we are not. We are the only thing here that will stay when all is done. And that is the unchangeable awareness. So, Ken was said, like in tomorrow's lesson, he's talking about God isn't everything I see because God is in my mind. And it's really like the same thing, but it's just a step-by-step thing. But he's saying psychology, the study of the ego, helps us understand how everyone's life, certainly by adulthood, is built up a defense against the pain and hurt of childhood. We came into this world so that we could feel victimized as children. That is the point of being born in this world, as I discussed in the prelude. Our entire lives, from ego's point of view, are made up of defenses to protect us from what we have come to accept as undeniable truths about the world, and especially our personal worlds. I cannot trust my mother. I cannot trust my father. I cannot trust women. I cannot trust men. I cannot trust my body. I cannot trust authorities. And on we go. In everyone's life, there's conclusions are perfectly justified because our scripts, as we have already seen, were specifically written to justify our feelings of unfair treatment. And I really lived that one for years and years, just wanting so much to know that I was still a victim. And when victim consciousness leaves and you realize that there's no victim and no victimizer here, it's just an awakening. Now, as far as like, being from everything to defense, we all know that. But the idea that this whole thing is unfolding together, because we are in the mind, we're not really in this form. I'm not really sitting in a chair. I'm talking from awareness, but even that is all part of the play, right? I mean, I don't know. The clarity that comes through sometimes sneaks through, sometimes it's not there. None of that matters. What matters is the here-ness, the now-ness, the beingness, the just being with what is, and realizing that our stories were, if you would have told me everything that happened to me was for me, I would have probably pulled your hair. I don't know why I said that, but maybe that's something I did when I was younger with my, but I wouldn't have liked it because victimhood is an attachment. He's laughing. Victimhood is a complete attachment. We like it as, that way we don't have to take responsibility. But what the Course is saying is, do you remember what heaven looks like? Because it really doesn't look like much except all-encompassing love, which is everything. But as far as physical eyes, there's no physical eyes that can see it. So it's like, it's time to just, Nisargadatta Maharaj says that you have to be very serious with this stuff and just be in the I am and don't move. That's what he did. But everybody's curriculum is different. And certainly in A Course in Miracles, you don't need a teacher. You don't need anybody to go to a retreat. It's all in this book because the book is cut in a way that it slowly but surely just says, okay, a clean sweep here and a clean sweep there of all these ridiculous thoughts when you are the pristine oneness. You are there and you are always there. And what he's saying, like to look at in text chapter 24, perception seems to teach you what you see, yet it but witnesses to what you taught. It is the outward picture of a wish. And that's truly what it is. Why are we wishing to be these people? Because of differences, because of specialness, because of who knows why. I remember I heard the ego one time saying, you don't need to do this right now because you're going to be like that forever. It's like my son, Andrew, he brought these teachings to me very early. He was a senior in high school. And he said, you don't have to be so upset about what happened to you, Mom. And he said, because, it's all God. I said, Andrew, I need the money. I don't need God right now. I'll have him the rest of my life. And that's what the ego says. You're going to always be in God. When you die, you're in God. You're always in God. But God's a thought. God's a word. What are we really in? We're in love, all encompassing freedom, which is all light. And when you're cold, when you think of light, you get warm because that is really the way we are. It's a perfect picture. Nobody's operating here on their own. Everybody's in the right place because it's a happening. And the happening is a perfect happening, but it's all a complete story from God. It's a love letter, if we take it as that. It's a love letter. Go ahead, girlfriend, lose everything. You don't need it. You're not really Sharon. That kind of thing happens. But it's like, where do we come up and just breathe the air of God when we realize that we've been mistaken, that we are not right about anything, and we want to be wrong. We want to be wrong. I remember Adyashanti saying something like, I want to be the dumbest person in the room. I want to know nothing. And that's basically, we take a lot of pride in our intelligence, but our intelligence is nothing. Our intelligence means nothing. The intelligence of the universe, now, that's a whole different thing. That intelligence is living through every being here. That is the Holy Spirit. That is who we are. We are the Tao. We are movement. We are moving in and out, and just slowly but surely, like a little bee, just buzzing along, getting rid of all of the thoughts that have held us back. The ultimate purpose of projection is always to get rid of guilt. So we stop projecting. And how do we do that? Well, it's kind of easy when we realize it's all us. We don't have to project anymore and say, look what he did. I can't believe this, No, we have to just be okay with just being and be thrilled about it. We don't have a body, really. We're never really even in the body. We think we are, but we really aren't. We can watch the body suffer, and it does that. I think that even the suffering can be toned down when we realize we're not that. So I would say that everybody in this group has a great insurance policy, no matter how old we get, that we know who we are, and we are love. And we want to treat ourselves that way too. We want to love every part of ourselves and everyone else, because that's all there is. Thank you. And here you are, Dove, for the mic. Over to you.
I want you to know, Sharon, every word that you said came right from Holy Spirit. You were so perfectly right on. I mean, everything you said. Oh my God!
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to take that and build on it. Everything you said, I can't even remember all the things you said. One of them is, we just don't trust, and of course, what's on the back of my card. Trust would settle every problem. Now comes from Jesus. We don't trust. And you were talking about being a victim. Absolutely. You can't come into this world unless you want to be a victim. You can't. If you're cause, you can't come into a world of victimhood. Notice in a couple of days, 31, lesson 31, Jesus is telling us you got to look at, you're not a victim of the world. You made it all up. You invented it. Lesson 31 and 32. You made this whole thing up so that you can not be responsible, which means you're not cause, which means you're not guilty for what the world is. And we made the world to attack God and said, you're not so loving, baby. Look at this world. It's a piece of crap. You got to laugh. I mean, you're not laughing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, so you are so right. We made this whole world up not to laugh, basically, take things so seriously. Look at what's going on here. Look at those people shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be. There's no they. There's no they. Exactly what you said. God is a word. What do you mean God is a word? That's right. It's the isness. We are all the isness, oneness. I'm always talking about myself. Isn't that what Dove says? You can write it on my tombstone. No matter what I say about anybody, I'm talking about myself. Can you imagine that? You got to laugh. Anyway, I found a couple more goodies I want to share. Let's see. I saw that Robert wrote your thoughts from earlier about God. Is echo within an essay. Is that the one? Yeah. It says the basis was the hilarious idea that God is in the shampoo bottle. But just before that, I put something up that I just found on our, well, many of you probably remember a long time ago, I started this thing called The Open Mind, and also included an NTI in it. But we have since Duquesne renamed it ACIM Family, and this is what I found. Not only is God in the shampoo, God is the love in which I forgive. God is the light in which I see. God is the mind with which I think. God is in everything I see. God is the strength in which I trust. Oh, there's the word trust again. Yeah, that is lesson 48, which happens to be Suzanne's favorite lesson. That's my wife, Suzanne. God is the strength in which I trust. And when she passed, she just focused on God is the strength in which I trust. 47 and 48 is there is nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. So, if you're trusting, there's nothing to fear. You are the love of God. But if you're fearing, fear pushes love away. You can't be fear and love at the same time. You got to choose. Really, I got to choose. You mean I have a choice in all of this? Really? I thought I was a victim. Yeah. No. Responsibility for sight. Everything that happens to you, you've asked for. Me asking for it? I think that these things are happening to me. Isn't it obvious they're happening to me? No, you asked for it. You received it exactly as you have asked. Stop deceiving yourself. That's what this world is. One big deception, distraction. Distraction from what? May I ask? And you're so right, Mickey. Why is the most useless, why is the most useless word in the English dictionary? Why? Only the ego asks why. Only the ego asks why. No, it's what is this for? What is this for? That's right. That's lesson 25. I do not know what anything is for. What is the purpose? Purpose is everything. Everything. Once you know the purpose, you're home. Once you know the purpose, you are home. So we're going to just do a little bit further. Let's see. Give all these messages. They have nothing to do with anything. So today's lesson, God is in everything I say. These next 2 days, today and tomorrow, happens to be Brooklyn's favorite lessons. When we first met her, she was saying, God is everything I say because God is in my mind. I said, that's right. And she almost every time I talk to her, God is in everything I say because God is in my mind. I said, that's pretty good. So 29 and 30 really go together really well. And it's really the purpose of forgiveness. The purpose of God. In other words, the purpose of forgiveness. And forgiveness is our only function. He tells you that. Forgiveness is my only function. Forgiveness of what? Forgiveness of what sounds like the ego. Why? What? It's in everything I see. This is because purpose is in the mind. Purpose is in my mind, really? That's right. What is the purpose of your mind? We are taught that the inner and the outer are the same. Therefore, what we perceive outside is nothing more than a shadow of what we have first perceived within. Wow, I'm looking at shadows. Shadows. The shadow knows I'm the shadow. Yeah. So as long as you're looking at shadows, you're looking at nothing, zero, because you are the light of the world. And that comes, by the way, from Ken Wapnick. I'm going to give him some credit here. And trust would settle every problem. Now we just don't. So we have to keep looking and looking and looking to try and find an answer to our problems. You have no problems. Remember that? Let me proceed what my problems are so they can be solved. Lesson 79. Sorry, Dove. Look at lesson 80. You have no problems. Why is that? Because you're not a body. You keep forgetting your mind. One mind, all included, equally, the same, perfectly. And God is, mind is, we are one. You really got to laugh at this stuff. You know, it's so simple, but so difficult for the ego to say, huh? That doesn't seem right. Hey, good morning, Zoma. God bless. Over to you, Karen.
Thanks, Dov. As you were speaking, I was thinking, I was looking at in this lesson where he says in paragraph 3, sentence 1, he says, try then today to begin to learn how to look on all things with love, appreciation, and open-mindedness. And this is beautiful just to remember to, because he says, you do not see them now. So looking at all things with love, appreciation, and open-mindedness, and that is accepting all things exactly as they are. Looking at all things with full appreciation for my brother, full appreciation for gratitude, for being grateful for everything, that every living thing is something to be grateful for because it's showing me what I'm thinking, and I can always only heal my mind. And that is what this lesson is reminding us, that the purpose is forgiveness, and the purpose is to forgive everything I see. So that brought me to review 4, which the central theme in review 4 is my mind holds only what I think with God. And then he says that this is a fact and represents the truth of what you are and what your Father is. It is this thought by which the Father gave creation to the Son, establishing the Son as co-creator. So this fully guarantees salvation, and lack of forgiveness blocks this thought from his awareness, but it is forever true. So it's the lack of forgiveness. My mind holds only what I think with God. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And it's the lack of forgiveness. It's the purpose is the Holy Spirit. So when I'm not seeing God in everything, I see it because the blocks are there. I'm listening to the ego thought system. I'm looking at the darkness instead of the light. I'm looking at the crucifixion instead of the resurrection. The thoughts are, as Lori was talking about, the thoughts that she had of how she thought Rod should be, he should go by now. He should be gone by now. Why are you suffering? Why are you doing this? And it's like, wow, why am I sticking to those dark thoughts? So it's always, the purpose is so important to remember, that it's always the Holy Spirit's purpose of forgiveness. And the ego thoughts don't mean anything because they're not true. So I love this lack of forgiveness blocks my mind holds only what I think with God, because it is forever true. So it's only blocking the awareness of love's presence, which is what the introduction reminds us. So I just love the way this course is so holographic, and it always goes back to saying the same thing. So yeah, that's all. Thanks.
I just want to go back to one thing. I was talking about shadows, that we believe in these shadows, and we are shadows. Notice my picture on the winter solstice, which was about, over about a month ago. My whole face and my body was in the light. As the sun gets closer, starts heading to the summer solstice, it's all dark, it's all shadows. So I don't want to be the sun. I really don't want to be the sun. You know, I want to be the victim. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, my face was covered in light, and now the light is going away, and I become a shadow. That's what this world is. I do not want to be the son of God. I want God to be blamed for everything. I have nothing to do with it, baby. That's it for me. Over to you, Laurie, if you want to take it.
I'm done. It's time for Zulma. I think what Bob wrote on the chat thing, I just want to read it. It's so good. Sherry and I often find ourselves living in two conversations at once. One is shaped by mortality and physical pain, by the quiet what ifs that arise when we talk about who might leave first. The other is filled with plans to move to Texas in June, discussing details, imagining a new chapter, and committing to a future neither of us can guarantee. Both feel true. Both occupy the same space. It is a classic expression of the split mind, holding fear and love side by side, even as life keeps asking us to choose forward motion anyway. I just thought that was very eloquent and interesting. So thank you, Bob, for sharing that. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for this healing today. I sure felt it in me. Okay, over to you, Linda. Turn it over to Zulma. See you guys next week.
Thanks you guys so much. What a wonderful session. And yeah, all this idea of planning, I'm telling you what, most of the things that have ever made me anxious, fearful, just terrorized in my life have been because I was planning something. I was planning something. I expected something. And so either I'm over here waiting in expectation and wondering, will it happen or not? Or I'm trying to plan to make it happen. When in reality, I need do nothing actually means that. Because if you're moving to Texas, you already went there. It's in the script, it's done. So, you know, everything that you do is already been done. So why stress about it? And, you know, as Holy Spirit always tells me, every time I start thinking about a plan, I should do this or I should do that, right off the bat, Lynn, you're not there yet. Because if I think I have to do something to get me there, then I become nervous and afraid. And there's no reason for it. Be still and know, you know, God is in everything. And it just allows everything to be. And Robert says this begs the question, is it planning or acceptance? I think it has to be acceptance and just asking, you know, what next? Everything will happen with or without your participation. It's happening. There's no, you ain't stopping it. Whatever is in the plan is there already. So all you're doing is trying to get yourself involved in it. It's like going to Niagara Falls and saying, "Oh, let me get a bucket of water to pour in here so that it'll make it even, you know, I'll be a part of Niagara Falls running." No, you're not. You can never be, because where did that bucket of water come from in the first place? It's all Niagara Falls. Anyway,